so much for joining me today for the League of Goddesses Spotlight interview. I am so excited to not only get to know you better, because we've only chatted a few times, but also to be able to introduce you to the amazing women of the League. Thank you again for taking the time to do this.
Well, thank you for having me. And if you hear any of that background noise, it is my puppy.
Oh,
that's what that is.
No, totally awesome. I haven't heard anything yet, but if we do, I mean, we'd love to see him. That's perfect. Okay, so I'm sure you're aware of how this works. The first few questions are going to kind of be quick and easy, and then as we move on down the line, they'll be a little bit more intimate. My first question is always, do you have any nicknames?
I do. I have actually quite a few. My full name is Alexandra. And as a kid, that was just a mouthful. So Alex, Al, Allie, spelled two different ways, and now Andie. And then there's a couple of family nicknames that are like, you got to be on the inside to know what they are.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch.
So Andie must have really stuck because that's what you used for your name in the league and also here. Is that just your favorite?
It's the name that I picked for myself. All the other ones were actually names that were prompted by other people.
Oh.
So yeah, Andie is the one that I picked.
That is awesome. I love it. That's the coolest answer I've heard to that question yet. I'm just like, wow, that is a lot of names. Definitely the most I've ever heard. And super cool that you picked your own. You're like, hey man, this is the one that's sticking.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. When is your birthday?
7/11, which I love.
Why?
It's easy to remember. I always tell people I'm a convenience baby. And also, I get a free Slurpee on my birthday. So, you know.
I love it. That is awesome. Okay. When you first said it, I was like, oh, it's July, right? Yeah, July. Like, that's what went on in my head. And then you're like, oh, convenience. And I'm like, oh my God, that's hilarious. Like, what a way to make it awesome. That's funny. And yeah, super easy probably for everyone to remember once you've said it that way. So really cool. Okay. And what is your favorite color?
Green.
Green. Any specific?
Most greens. Yeah, not like an electric green, like kind of natural fall colors mostly.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. And then are you a coffee girl or a tea girl?
Oh, tea.
Do you say
100% tea?
Tea, a tea girl. What's your favorite tea? Because normally people that are tea people, they have a favorite.
Ooh, that's hard. I like a lot of tea. I will go for an Earl Grey, but I like all different kinds. It just depends on my mood. It's a good indicator of how I'm feeling, actually.
Ooh, I like that. So you kind of switch it up. So if you're in a super happy mood, what's your go-to?
Probably something kind of berry-ish.
Mm-hmm.
So like a hibiscus blackberry would be good as an iced tea.
That sounds phenomenal. Okay. I'm like, if I need a tea recommendation, I know who to go to.
Gotcha.
Okay, so this question is one of my absolute favorites. If you could only have one, what would it be? A book, podcast, or blog?
Oh, a book.
Book. Okay, me too. I love them. So now I have to ask, this question is not supposed to ever be asked, but it's just now become my thing. Are you a book smeller? Like, do you smell them?
Not as a rule, but I have been known to do it. So the book that I'm reading right now is probably 20 or 25 maybe 20 years old. And I smell it when I'm reading it just because it's got the old smell.
Yep.
So new books, not so much. Old books, yeah.
Yes. I used to think I was weird. I'm like, oh, well, I mean, I am still weird, but I used to think that it's really weird that I smelled books. And I would be like, oh God, I hope no one ever sees me doing this. And now every girl who says it's books, I ask, and we all smell them. I'm like, this is pretty cool. Like, we all love to do it. So
yeah. I mean, unless they say their thing is Kindle books or ebooks of some kind, I suppose, and
yeah, no,
it's not the same. It's not the same.
Agreed. Okay, so since you're a book girl, can you tell me what is your favorite book of all time? Like if you were going to get put on a deserted island and you could only take one, what would it be?
Okay, so it depends on the genre, which I'm sure people probably tell you that every time. But there's a few that have really kind of gotten a hold of me. And my criteria for that is, can I simultaneously lose myself and find myself in the book?
Ooh, I have never heard that, and I love that. Like the way
Yeah.
that
So yeah, like it's both. Can I find things about myself? Am I learning things about myself? Is it causing me to be introspective? But also, can I get lost in it? Can I kind of have that suspense of reality and just get lost in whatever they're explaining or talking about, their narrative or the story if it's a fiction book? A Woman's Worth is pretty amazing by Marianne Williamson. That's pretty high up there. The Shack, I don't remember the name of the author, but The Shack is a really, really great one for me on a spiritual level. And I'm not Christian, but it made the idea of a spiritual deity more accessible to me. So those are two. Maverick, I think, in terms of business by Ricardo Semler is one of my all-time favorites. So that's more than one, but that's probably, if I had to pick 10, those three would be on that list.
That's awesome. I like that you did them by genre. Most people don't. So it's pretty cool because I'm like, oh, that means those are the best out of each of those three for you. So lovely. Now that you've told me your favorites of all time, can you tell me what book is just grabbing your attention right now and you are loving?
I can't, well, and it's sitting here. That's why I grabbed it when you're talking about smelling. So it's an adventure book and it's 0% self-development, which is why I picked it. And it's old. It's from when I was a kid and it's got pictures in it. As you go along, it's got like just little illustrations and things. So I like it, but it's called The Edge Chronicles.
Edge Chronicles. Nice.
Yep. So like anybody who was into Harry Potter or kind of that age, this is a similar time period that it was written. It's like late 90s, early 2000s. And it was just another adventure series that I got lost in. So I'm rereading all of them.
Oh, that's super cool.
That's probably my favorite right now. Yeah.
That's
and
nice.
It's fun.
And I like that you picked it because it wasn't self-help or improvement. It was just for you to escape, I guess, right?
Yeah. Like to just actually enjoy reading a book.
Yeah. No, without having to highlight and learn anything. I get it. It's like,
yeah, like no, yeah. And no Instagram, no TV, like just pick up my book. And sometimes I still do the other stuff, but it's a replacement for that. I'm trying to get back to reading for entertainment instead of trying to relax with Instagram or relax with TV.
Yeah.
Like, can I grab a book some of the time? So.
Oh, I like that. I feel like that's probably mostly where I go to, because a lot of times I think we think like vegging out, watching TV or scrolling on Instagram is relaxing. But I think that if you actually, deciphered it out and took the facts and compared them, you're not really relaxed when you're done. So It's like you think that's what you're doing, but I don't really, or at least for myself, I don't really feel like the end result is relaxed. So, but book reading almost always, unless I'm like, holy shit, I have so much to do after reading this book, then that's a little different. But okay. Yeah. So now that we've talked about books, which is one of my favorite things in the world, let's talk about your business. Can you tell us the name and a little bit about it?
Yeah, so there's more than one. The main business that I run is with my business partner, Meredith Cole. It's called Always Here Pro, and it's a virtual assistant agency. So we have a team of people who are all really good at a bunch of different stuff: bookkeeping, website design, social media management, admin, executive travel, booking, just all sorts of different things. So the idea is if a business needed to outsource something in order to get started, instead of bringing in a full-time staff member who's an expert, they can do all of those different things with us. Can we help them with branding? Can we help them with their marketing schedule? All of that kind of thing. And the people that we're looking to serve are small businesses who have maybe one to 50, 1 to 100 employees maximum. And our intention is, and we'll get to this a little later, there's an aim around that business that I think it would be worth probably explaining. And then I also we're launching a software company, so more to come on that, but it's to help businesses be organized and document all their processes. And then I'm also starting a nonprofit. It's an independent living community for adults with developmental disabilities. So somebody who has autism or Down syndrome, it would be a place for them to call their own and have some independence, but still have some programming.
Wow.
Yep. And then lastly, we have a podcast. It's called Two Chicks in Your Cheddar.
Oh, I love it. I love it. That is awesome. All of those are super cool. And now I'm more curious. I'm like, how are you marketing, especially the business to business one for the assistants? Like, how are you guys marketing?
Yeah. So we're in a few different communities that have business owners, because that's primarily who we're trying to get a hold of. Is in the beginning, it's going to be the owner or the founder, since they're making all the decisions. Or it could, if they're a little bit larger, it could be someone who's on the executive level in that business. But really, it's just making friends who have businesses and then seeing, hey, we can help you with that. Like, you sure you want to do that on your own? Because we can do that in 5 minutes. It's going to take you an hour. Right here.
Yeah.
So, but it really is attraction rather than promotion. Truly, like, yes, we can do marketing, but we don't need to if we're doing it right, or if we're making connections, if we're creating, there's the book Super Fans. If we're creating super fans, they're going to tell their friends who are going to tell their friends. So really, it's just doing a good job of serving the people we're already working with, making friends with people in networking groups that own businesses, and then seeing how we can help.
Yeah, no, I think that that's awesome. And I think that the league is the perfect place for you guys. I feel like you guys should kind of broadcast this, because I know so many women in there are at that point where they need help, but they don't need it full time. And so they're just like, ooh, I need it. And so now that I know, because this business I didn't really know much about, I will definitely be like, hey, reach out to her. So I think that would be a lovely thing to kind of share with the league. I think there's so many women in there that just need an extra hand, and don't really know where to go to get a good one. Because, I've tried to outsource stuff like that before, and it always kind of was like, it was okay. And so now we have the team inside, but when I didn't, it would have been really nice to know, like, one of my girlfriends owns a company and I can trust her. Yeah. So super cool, man. That's awesome. Sorry, I got like totally down the rabbit hole with that one.
No, that's okay.
So much. Okay, so now tell me, why did you join the League of Goddesses?
Okay, so I joined League of Goddesses because my business partner Meredith is already in the League of Goddesses, and I got tired of hearing her tell me, this is so cool, I'm going to this event, I'm doing this thing, and sitting there and saying like, okay, I guess I'll wait for you to come home. Like, I'll twiddle my thumbs and just, you'll tell me about it later. Finally, she's like, why have you not joined this? And initially my resistance was, I don't necessarily need one more group in my life, right? But it is not the same. Like, it's not the same as the other places that I've connected with people. And for me, there's something kind of magical about the fact that it's women.
Yeah.
So yeah, initially I joined because Meredith was a broken record of amazingness. I trust her implicitly. So if she thinks it's great, it's probably great.
Oh, that makes me so happy. And I'm so happy that once you finally did, you weren't like, oh God, see, I knew I shouldn't have done this. No. That is awesome. That makes my heart happy. So I'm so glad you're here. And I'm so glad all the women are here, because to me, it's just such a blessing to know that I have a place that I can go and connect. Because it was lonely, there wasn't an easy place to just be like, oh, I can plug in to other entrepreneurs and they're women and they get me, and it's not competitive. It's about uplifting each other and seeing where we can help each other achieve our goals. And so it's just a beautiful place. And I like the ebb and flow of it. I like that when I get busy, I don't have to feel guilty for not being in there because I need to take some time, or I can be in there as much as I want if I have some extra time. It's just like very friendly. And the women in there all have such a good heart. So I'm glad you're there. Okay, so now tell me, what do you wish to contribute to the league?
Oh, so I don't necessarily know that I have a choice about what I contribute, because I just show up the same way all the time, and it's just going to be what it is. So it's not necessarily what I would want to contribute, but I think what it is that I naturally bring with me is vulnerability and depth. Like, I can't help that. And it helps me to be in groups where, like yourself or like Meredith, who are a little more uplifting or friendly or energetic, because I am not. I am deep, but I'm also low energy. And so it helps me to be in a place where I can be balanced out. So I can offer that, and it works best when paired with other women.
So it's phenomenal, because I'm like, oh yeah, see, we work best with people like you. Just pair them together. It works well. So that is awesome. Yeah. And I love that you're aware of that in yourself. Like, hey, I'm gonna bring me, and that's just what it is. And I love that because I think that that's what we all need to do. It's like, hey, just show up and be you, and that's gonna be perfect. So you don't need anything different than who you are. Just you to be authentically you. So that's beautiful. Okay, so now what do you hope to attain from the community?
So I think a lot of times when people talk about a community, what they really are talking about is like a topic group or a focus group and not necessarily true community. And so in this collection of women, that's what I would be looking for, is the sense of true community, of depth and connection and support and camaraderie and, you know, people following up saying like, hey, you said that thing, I want to hold you accountable, and or you said that thing, I'm concerned, can I check on you? Right? Like truly people who are connected in the community. So that is what I would hope for, is that close-knit feeling where we really are doing life together.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I like it. Okay, now can you tell me who is important in your life? I know your puppy is. I don't know his name yet, though. I think maybe.
Oh, Rosie. I can show
Rosie.
you.
Okay.
She's right down here. Hi, Rosie.
She's pretty.
Rosie.
Oh, I love
Hi,
her
baby.
color.
She is a full-time job for me. She is a wheelchair puppy, so she has a little cart, and she requires a lot extra. That's why when I was saying you might hear her, it's nerve pain, and she yelps. So I didn't want to startle anyone, and I heard her in the beginning. My eyes got really big, so that's when people are like, why did her face do that?
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. There's the explanation, although I didn't notice it. But
Yeah. Okay, that's good.
Oh. So how did you?
So Rosie is. She was in February. I was backpacking in Thailand, and I found her, and then I saw her little legs that didn't work, and it was game over.
No.
Okay, I'm your mom. That's just a thing I know now. So it literally love at first sight, which is not something that I typically would have believed in prior to her. But I'm trained, in my background, I'm trained as a social worker. And so it was just one of those things, you know, like I saw her, thought she was such a cute puppy. And then like, all right, well, we're going to have to figure out how this is going to work to get you home from Thailand and figure out how to take care of a dog that is in a wheelchair that can't go to the bathroom on her own. And she's like 3 months old when I met her. Wow. So it's not like we had a short amount of runway left in her life. We had a lot of runway left. Wow. So, and we still do. I mean, she's only 4. So.
Oh, how cool. I feel like that's a really long, fun story. And I'm going to have to know, because I'm super curious now. Like, how do you get animals across the country? Because I know it's a big deal. So that's that's going to be a story I'm going to have to ask later. Okay, now this question, I love it because you can take it 2 different ways. The question is, what dream have you made come true? It could either be your own dream or maybe a dream that you made come true for someone else.
Oh, I didn't even think about it going for somebody else. That's a good question. I mean, building the apartment facility for adults with special needs, that in and of itself is building other people's dreams, because it is literally an answer to people's prayers. Families who say, I don't know what happens after 22. My kid graduates out of the education system, and then what? Like, where are their friends? How are they going to have community? How are they going to have a sense of independence? There's not a track anymore for them to be building independent living skills. So that quite literally will be an answer to the prayers of those people and their families. One in particular, I'm building it for someone that I know. It's a family friend, and I want him to have a place of his own. And so we're just going to build it because it doesn't exist yet here in North Carolina. So we're just going to make one.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then in terms of my own dreams, a lot. I mean, just that backpacking trip that I mentioned when I got Rosie, I quit my job. I bought a house, renovated it, ran a marathon, quit my job, and backpacked Thailand in 12 months.
Holy shit. That was a good year. Like a busy
That was an intense year.
Yeah.
Everyone else was like, I think you're crazy. And then 6 months after that, I brought her home and started my business because I brought her home. That's why I started my business, was so I could take care of her. But backpacking Thailand, I did semester at sea, and that nobody else supported that. That was just me and sheer willpower. So I got on a cruise ship, and my professors and fellow students sailed with me, and we went to, I think, 11 countries.
Wow.
There were 13 ports and 111 days. So it was one semester, and we literally circumnavigated the world. So
Holy cow, dude, that is phenomenal. I'm like, you have so many good stories. I feel like we should have a ladies' night just to hear about your life. That's awesome. Yeah, that's totally cool. Okay, I'm going to have to start taking notes. The dog, Rosie, and then this semester on the ocean. Like, I've never heard anything like that. So super cool. Can you tell me, my next question is, what does your heart desire at this time? And now I'm expecting like some huge answer.
You know, it's not. It's a really simple one. Healing. Literally, that's it. And more fun. Like I had a crisis of faith a couple of years ago. Some rough things happened in my life. And so I just kind of want to get back to equilibrium. I've struggled since then to just feel, I don't know, engaged with life. I've just kind of been doing life, if that makes sense. So healing, and then more fun. Why not be having more fun? I think that's always the answer. And so I literally, on the phone with Meredith this morning, I told her, like, we're working too much. Let's go see a Christmas tree, or I don't know, do a light show or something. Like, we're going to do something that has nothing to do with work, because why not? It's December and there's things to do. So
yeah. Oh, I love it. My husband would say, are you being a human doing? Or are you being a human being? Because if I like click a switch and be a robot, I would have done it years ago. And so I feel you. It's like you just get in the groove. And now that I know a little bit more about your background, I feel like you're probably a go-getter and a doer. And so it just naturally like do. And then at the end, you're like, where was the fun? You know, and what's the experience?
Yeah. I think compared to maybe John Q. Public, I'm a doer, but I think compared to the people I run with, I'm not. Like, compared to my mom and my grandpa, who are serial entrepreneurs, I'm one of the rare ones who grew up with family members who owned businesses. So I didn't have to make my own path. But then Meredith is just a butt kicker. I mean, she runs. My boyfriend has, I think it's like 7 businesses at this point.
Wow.
So like, yes, but also I am the type to sit and read a book in the middle of the afternoon because I'm so introverted and like I have to. But yeah, that's one of the things that I'm figuring out is, what does that balance look like for me?
Yeah. I think that's such a unique thing to look for, but also to say, because we're always trying to figure out, and it's always changing. I don't know if you feel that way, but I'm like, oh, I got it down. And it's like, there you go. That was previous, and it's going to change.
Yeah.
And so I just started to enjoy that. Like, oh, what is it that creates balance for me at this moment? And that can be a lot of fun if you enjoy, being spontaneous and figuring it out. So super cool.
I will show you a trick of mine.
Oh, I would love to see.
At the beginning of every year, I write down, this is in the beginning of my planner, but I write down all the different like segments of my life and then what's in them. And I wanted to make sure that me had enough things in them.
Okay.
Because it didn't. It literally was just all work and like personal development programs and my boyfriend and my mom and my dog. Like, friendship was in there, but like I didn't have anything for myself. And so I started writing stuff in there, like taking a hip hop class was on the list, or traveling, or I had a goal and it got thwarted because of COVID, but to see 12 theater shows this year, 1 a month.
Oh.
And so I think I only saw 2 or 3 this year because of COVID. But that was part of my trick, was to literally put it on paper and look at the breakdown. Like, where am I giving myself to? What am I giving myself to?
Yeah. And how am I prioritizing myself? I mean, you can see it really quickly. Like, you were at the end. It's like, give.
Yeah. Because I got to the end, I was like, oh crap, I'm missing something. Yeah.
I only laugh because I'm like, oh yeah, I can see myself doing that hardcore.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that trick. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay, this next question, so many of these are my favorite, and I keep saying that, and I should stop it, but I'd like find a new word. This question is always very intriguing to me, though. So if you weren't Andie and you were speaking to another girlfriend about Andie, what would you say about her?
It's an interesting one because it depends on how well somebody knows me.
Well, I guess the person introducing you. Well, have them know you well.
If they knew me well, I think they would say I care too much. I care, but I also care too much. And that's just the truth of it. I care about everyone. I care about everything. And it gets me into a pickle sometimes because I try and prioritize other people caring over what I care about. And so that's a lesson I'm learning. But that I care a whole lot. If they know me well enough to get past my nervousness and social anxiety, they would know that I'm funny, have a good sense of humor. And probably also that I'm very emotional, because that's pretty accurate.
I do not
roller coaster over here.
I do not get that you have like any social anxiety. Like you look so calm and so chill and so sweet. Is this a facade you've worked on? I'm like, I don't see anything but like super friendly and awesome.
So I'm both. I'm very social, but I'm nervous. Like I was in my bathroom doing breathing exercises, putting on my makeup, being nervous for this call.
Oh,
and I'm writing a book in the midst of everything else that I'm doing. I'm writing a book. And that's one of the things that I talk about is if somebody is worth me spending my time with, if somebody is worth me caring about their opinion, I shouldn't have to be nervous, if that makes sense. Like if my insecurities are the things that push somebody away, it wasn't worth me caring what they thought in the first place. Wow. I don't need to wind myself up so much.
Yes. Well, I have to tell you that I get I don't feel any of that from you. It's beautiful to talk to you. I've enjoyed it every time. I'm like, you have, from my point of view, obviously I'm an outsider looking in, but no reason to have any of those feelings. I've enjoyed every conversation we've had, and it's always been deep, like you said. And I think so many people value that. So to be able to run into someone who you can just have, a quick 10 or 15 minute conversation with and it be deep, I think that's unique. And so I hope that you feel special in that regard. Because for me, those are the women that I search for. So it's beautiful. Okay, this question's a little bit deeper. And so if you need some time, please take it. But the question is, what vision do you have for the future of humanity?
I used to be such an optimist, but I think I've migrated more towards being a realist. I'm a little bit nervous about the future of humanity. Like, if I were to look at the trajectory that I think humanity is on, I worry a little. So I don't actually tend to focus very much on my vision for humanity because I can't control all of humanity anyway. So what I tend to focus on is the vision for the things I can control. My vision for my business, my vision for my nonprofit, my vision for the life that I'm building and the people that I can transform. Because if everybody focused on that, it would be enough. So I try not to worry about the world on the whole, or, I try not to spend so much time thinking about politics or, I don't know, the trajectory of human psychology, because those aren't the things I'm going to affect. So it's not very practical or pragmatic for me to spend all of my emotion and energy stuck there. So I try and envision the way that my employees' lives will change. I try and envision the way that my children's lives, and I don't have kids yet, but I will. So I try to envision what their lives will be like and the container that I can create for them to grow up inside of emotional safety and financial security and, the ability to ask questions, intellectual safety for them to not know things and try things and be wrong about things and have opinions and say stuff to me that's awkward. That's more what I dream about. I don't know if that counts as an answer, but.
Oh, it totally does. It totally does. It's beautiful. Very. I think you're right. And so many of the women I speak to, they go about saying what you said in a different way though. But it all boils down to, in my point of view, if we all took care of ourselves and made sure that our consciousness level was constantly rising, it would be enough. And so it's a really good lesson, I think, for women in general, because what I see is that we always tend to focus our energies outside, right? What do they need? How can I help them? But we have to remember that it starts here. And so I think that you being very cognizant of that's awesome. So super, super cool answer. Since we tweaked it a little bit, can you tell me, does this vision for maybe not humanity, but the world that you can impact affect your decision making?
Yeah. Yep. It's all, my family has a very particular way of operating in business, and it bleeds into psychology at large. So Dr. Deming is the person who came up with the theory. It's the system of profound knowledge, and everything is based around having an aim. And so like in my family, you would have a personal aim so that you can use that as your litmus test against decisions you're making. What trip am I going to make? How am I going to spend my money? That kind of thing. And so in our business, because I have that intention of growth and connection and transformation, we literally wrote it into the intention and aim of our business. So our aim is to own and operate a model virtual assistant and online business management agency that transforms thinking and improves lives. There's no decision somebody makes in our business that isn't aimed towards improving lives and transforming thinking, like in a positive regard, and being a model company. Like that's where we're headed. And if somebody makes a decision and it's the wrong decision, as long as they can explain to me why they thought it fit into our aim, that's okay, great. We'll work on adjusting the process, but nobody's going to get in trouble for trying to transform thinking and improve lives. Run around like transformation fairies. Can't be mad about it.
That is an amazing way to put it. And I'm sorry to make you repeat. I didn't jot it down. What was the book that you learned this technique from? Just AIM.
Oh, there's a lot of books. So Dr. Deming is the person, and he has 2 books, and they're a little bit dry. They're very technical. He's a statistician. But The New Economics is one of them. And then, I'm going to blank on it. I'll have to figure it out. I could go like rummage through my bookcase and find the other one, but Dr. Deming is the one.
I'll look him up because I feel like it's such a great.
And our podcast, our podcast, Two Chicks in Your Cheddar, that Meredith and I have, we have a whole episode on creating your aim and core values. So if people wanted to hear kind of our perspective and our take, because I'm pretty particular, my family is very particular about the way that they employ it. That would be a good place for people, a good resource for people to see or listen, I suppose, to how we would do that.
All right, Andie, how have you implemented actions into your business to help create this vision that we've spoken of?
So the aim is one way, and we teach that to all of our employees inside of our business, and we guide them and mentor them in using that to make decisions. So we don't always give them the answers. We'll tell them, okay, here's the end game and here's the aim, figured out. And it's not without support, but it's giving room for people to develop into decision makers, because a lot of times we're having to unteach people checking for permission and like going and getting clearance for things and not having the freedom to make a decision. So like example, if somebody in our business saw something we needed and they spent money and bought it and submitted for reimbursement, that's not a process we've developed yet. But if it was a need and they spent the money and they did it, we'd probably roll with it. But most businesses, they would want you to submit the request for reimbursement and get approval for the money spent. It's like, no, just go handle it. Like it's your company too. You work here, it's yours. It's part of what we're all building. Just go do it. Go do the thing. And then we have weekly mentorship calls. So we don't have annual reviews. Like as a practice, we don't do that. What we do instead is a weekly mentorship call. And so we're constantly checking in on how are you growing? How are you developing? What questions do you have? What obstacles are you facing? How can we help teach you? What tools can we provide to you? And then we also, you don't have a manager, you have a direct mentor. So even just in the name of what we call things, we're very specific.
That's really intriguing. Yeah. I like it. I'm like, okay, I have a list going of things I need to talk to you about after the meeting. Like, all right, Alicia. I just think it's such a cool, I've never even heard of it, the AIM. I've never heard of that, but I feel like just what you told us on this interview has been phenomenal. And what a great way to help empower people to make decisions, because I think that's what most entrepreneurs are trying to do, is cultivate others to be able to run things on their own. It's not so that we can be an employee in our business. It's so that we can create something and then watch it kind of grow and evolve. So
Yeah.
Really cool way to help cultivate people that maybe have not been, doing that forever. That's really cool. So thank you for sharing all of that. That's, I think, really a unique perspective. And I just totally went back to it, but it's a unique perspective. And I'm surprised that out of all of the books that I've read and the businesses that I've owned, that I've never heard it before. Like, where has this been? Because, core values and all of that, like, that's just a common, like, it's in every business and everybody tells you to do it. And of course you have them, but that doesn't always like hone in on what is the aim? What are we aiming towards? And
Right.
It seems more effective. Granted, I haven't studied it, but from what you're saying, I'm like, oh man, that's a really cool one. Okay, Andie, can you tell me, what is your bliss?
Yeah, so I'm still figuring it out. I love that question, and it's why I was excited that you were going to ask it. So I think I'm still figuring it out. And when I think about bliss, I actually looked up the definition, and I'm going to not get it word for word, but it means two different things. One is a sense of complete happiness, and the other is a sense of spiritual fulfillment. And so I was curious partly which definition you meant by bliss.
Ooh, that's really good. So I think mine, the way I would interpret it, because I feel like words are so unique, and they're so specific to the way that you interpret and you feel and how, you were raised. For me, it's a mixture of both. And it was also a really important question for me in 2020, because I don't think I was chasing my bliss. And I was doing all the work. I was successful financially. I was successful in our businesses, all of those things, but something was missing. And I knew it, but I didn't know how to get it. And you kind of hit the nail on the head earlier where you were talking about happiness, more happiness in your life. And so I went on a hunt for my bliss. What is that? How do I attain that happiness? What do I need to be doing? And that is actually what the League was born out of. So my bliss is helping other women achieve their greatest desires and live extraordinary lives. And so that's why I started the League. It was actually a bliss project. So it's kind of funny. I joined a group for it, and it's called Blisspreneurs. And it's just like, I know it's so funny. It's so funny that you like related to that question. They're about to start again next year. So if you're interested, I can shoot you my coach's name, and it was really one of the best decisions. And I actually think I told Meredith about them. So Meredith might have even talked with you about it, because it's just phenomenal.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about it, because that has been my journey. Like I said, I've had kind of a crisis of faith in the last couple of years, and I'm just figuring out how to get back to stasis. But I've had that same sense of lacking. And so I've partly just had to figure out, what do I enjoy? Because when I used to know it, I'm not her anymore. I'm 8 years older or 6 years older or whatever. So I'm having to figure it out. I've moved across the country a couple of times since then. Like, I've started businesses, I've left relationships, sold houses, started relationships, just a lot. And so some of it is just going back to basics. Like, I really love puppies. Mm-hmm. I like traveling. I really like long conversations, long, deep, meaningful conversations, but then also time to hole up and take a bath and read a book and not see people for like 5 days afterwards.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's connection for me, like meaningful connection and belonging, and figuring out what does that look like, especially in this virtual age that we're in, that like, what can that look like? How can I cultivate that? Yeah. And to frankly find better friends, like find friends that I can really enjoy life with. And Meredith is the start of that turning point. It's why it was so easy to bring her into my business. And I think why it's successful, because it's hard. Having a business partner is not an easy journey. You have to really mean it. Yeah. So we joke that like we're more contractually partnered up than me and my boyfriend.
Oh, for sure, right? Yeah, if you're in business together.
Yeah, we're not married. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean,
So
it's,
it has been a journey for me of finding deeper, more meaningful friendships who can play on my level. And not that my previous friends were less than me, but it's just a different sense of relating. As I'm growing in consciousness, there's a gap that has been left there. And I love my friends still from back then, but there's not as much common ground maybe as there used to be, because most of them haven't taken the journey with me. So I think that's part of it, is finding people who can be the lifelong friends of the next 20 years of my life, and just being grateful and having familiarity with the people that have been my great friends over the last 10 or 15 years of my life. Like who are going to be the big players moving forward. So it's kind of an exciting thing to find people that I can adventure and find my bliss with.
yes.
So I think maybe that's what I'm working on, is let me find my people first, and then we can figure out what it is together.
Yeah. Sometimes I think, or at least for me, I think each individual has their bliss, and it's kind of their gift. And I wouldn't say that it wasn't easy for me to uncover, but having coaches help you with it was so phenomenal. And this isn't their first rodeo. So the premise of what they do is only working with successful entrepreneurs who are missing whatever that is, right? In their own words. And so you have to apply, which was pretty intriguing. It's like, I have to apply to spend money with you. Okay. But they're very focused on what they do and how they do it, and the result that they're hoping for the people that join. And I mean, I feel like I was right where you are. I'm like, there's more. What is it? And what is it that makes me tick? And what is my passion? I have a lot of passions. I love business. I love giving. I love all sorts of things, but I needed to figure out, like, how do I envelope that into something that I can do? And then when I do it, does it fulfill me, right? And is it just blissful for me? And so it's been a really great year with them, learning that, and learning that, the blissful things, they change sometimes too. It's not like, oh, this is my bliss forever. It will always be this. It's, what is my bliss right now, right? And it's living and breathing. And for me, it's been fabulous. So I will definitely send you their link. I sent it to Meredith probably like a month ago. I feel like maybe a month or a month and a half ago, because she was kind of saying the same thing. And I feel like it's almost maybe our age, right? We've had enough time now to experience. We've started a couple businesses. We've given to people. It's not our first rodeo. It's like, okay, we understand how to get things done. We're not like a deer in the headlights. Okay, what's the next move? It's like, got it. I mean, there might be new things that we're doing, but it's not scary. And, we're able to comprehend and move forward. But not knowing what your bliss is and what really makes you truly happy, besides like picking up a book or petting a puppy, right? Something that's
right. Yeah.
Like I know I love coffee and chai tea, but and puppies, and I need something, that thing that anchors.
Yeah, it's the difference, I think, between comfort and contentment, or comfort and bliss. And that's part of what I was thinking about once I realized that was one of the questions you ask, is I can be very comfortable if nobody wants anything from me, if nobody needs anything from me, if I'm left alone, if I have a book and a dog and some food, I'm good for like months. I would probably be okay for a long time with very little human interaction if you gave me those things. But that doesn't mean I'm content. And so what does that look like? Like, what is worth me being productive for? What is worth me having exertion over? Like, what makes me want to dig and do the thing?
Yeah. Yep. Oh, I feel like you've got to you need to reach out to them. And my specific coach's name is Patrick. And he was like my bliss Sherpa. Poor guy. Getting mine figured out was like, I think that I'm just a little, well, obviously OCD, and then also accomplished already, right? So it's just like, for my age, like I've got some pretty big things. There's other people who have done way bigger than me. But for me, I'm like, okay, I've got some accomplishments under my belt. And so everything, like I analyze everything so much. And then I would put it into, well, I can spend this time doing this, or I can spend this time doing that and grow my business by, you know what I mean? So a lot of it was very weighted monetarily. And sometimes you have to realize that, hey man, your bliss doesn't get weighted that same way. It's not the same thing. And when you do find your bliss and you operate in it and you take the time to invest into it, it just skyrockets everything else because you're more of who you are, right? And so instead of my original view of it was like, well, I'm taking away from my business to do this, and I don't see how that could be responsible, right? And then I realized like, oh, wait a second, I'm not a robot. And this life was meant to be experienced. And if you can't experience bliss, then what is the point? You know?
Yeah.
So anyway, I'll get you his info. And thank you so much for answering that question. That was probably the best conversation I've ever had around that one before. So I'm glad that you reminded me about it. Thank you. Okay, my last question, and this one I absolutely love, so I'm excited to hear what you have to say, is if you could share a piece of advice or one tip that someone has given you that just rocked your world or totally changed your perspective on things, what would it be?
It depends on the season of my life, but lately it's okay for people to not like you. Like it's okay for people to not agree with what you're doing, for people to be disappointed. Like that's for them to sort through. I don't need to take ownership of their feelings around what I'm doing. So, during the end of year call, we were talking about expectations of family. So it's come into play with my family. It's come into play with my business. It's come into play with my relationship, just things that I used to be afraid to do or afraid about what people would think about me doing them. So there was an extra layer of anxiety that I'm learning how to disengage from. Like the art, and I'm going to assume it's okay for me to use strong language, but the art of not giving a fuck is a thing that I'm cultivating. I'll probably be working on it for the rest of my life, but truly, like, it's an art form. And I'm in pursuit of mastery because I've been so codependent and worried and anxious my whole life. And I'm just over it. I'm getting to the age where I don't care.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know that's not super elegant, but just
you don't care.
Yeah. It doesn't matter what other people, it just doesn't matter. And I think it's not so much that it's profound, but it's that it's hitting me in a profound way.
Yeah.
The way that I'm changing because of that new awareness and really stepping through the discomfort of letting it be okay.
Yeah.
Like learning to put it in practice.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I feel like that journey is something that everybody has to go through. Maybe a little bit different for everyone, right? Because some people I think care more and some probably care a little bit less. My husband has the art of not giving a fuck down to a T. Like you could come up to him and tell him, you are probably the ugliest dude I've ever seen. You're hideous. You're not even smart at all. And I don't even know why your wife is with you. And he would literally just be like, okay, thank you for your opinion. And then walk away from you. But his inside temperature would still be this because he doesn't give a shit what you think. It's just like, he doesn't give a shit so much that he doesn't have to be like, they're an asshole and they're stupid. Like he already forgot you. Just like, I don't know where you were born with this like gift from, but that is him. And then, there's the other extreme, but I think everybody has to work on and cultivate that. However, I think the reward at the end of it is that you become more of your authentic self and the rest of the world gets to experience that. And it's so beautiful because like we were talking about earlier, all we really have to give is ourselves. And so if we can be authentic and share that with the world, then the world as a whole is getting a huge positive. So super cool.
Thank you. Yeah.
I can let you hang out with my husband a little bit. You'll get rid of it real quick.
My boyfriend is this, like it does not care. Yeah. Like almost to the point where it's like a challenge. Like, can I get people to not like me? Yeah. Is almost his deal. Like, because he's willing to just be, he's self-proclaimed, so I'll call him it. I don't love calling him a name, but he is like, I'm a self-proclaimed asshole, so I really don't care what other people think about me. It's like, okay.
That's what my husband says too.
Right.
He introduces.
He just does not. Yeah.
Yeah. For my husband,
like, okay, and he's rubbed off on me.
Yeah, it's good. It's good for people like you and I that care so much to be balanced with someone like that. They're a good example. So, and sometimes I think it's not so much that they're assholes. I think the world labels them that way. So they just say it to like, kind of crack a joke at themselves. But it's like, no, actually, they're just really self-secure. And for everybody else, it's hard to even, how could they be that way? You know, and it's like, well, it's actually super healthy.
Yeah.
So I think that they're, you know, they're blessed to have been born with a little bit more of that. So I admire it.
Yeah.
But anyway, all right, Andie. Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed our call today. It's been so much fun, and I feel like I learned so much too. So thank you for sharing you with all of us. I'm excited to share this interview on the league, and then also to set a phone call with you for all the things that I wrote down for later. I'm gonna have to ask Meredith to drag you down to Texas sometime.
I will happily come along.
That would be lovely. All right, girl. Well, I hope that you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll chat with you soon.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye.